The Conjuring 2, directed by James Wan, takes us back to the late 1970s where the Warrens, played by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, are investigating another case. This time it is in Enfield, England, where a young girl has reported hearing strange noises and paranormal activity throughout the house. And the story takes us back 6 years after the events of the first Conjuring film, and Lorraine, who is still trying to get over her troubled past, she doesn't want to do any more cases, but with much convincing of her husband Ed, they go forward and take the case to help this family who is trying to convince everyone that they are not making this up. This isn't a hoax, and why would the parent be putting their children through this and trying to get all this attention and be making up this whole entire phenomenon. So much like the first film, it has this very same style and craft to it. The first film I actually enjoyed. I'm not a huge horror fan. I don't know. I might have like a lot of expectations for horror films. Like when I think of a horror film, I want to go in there and be scared. If I want to watch a good drama, I'll go watch a drama. These last couple movies have not been doing it. The first Conjuring film, again, a lot of people, the movie creeped them the hell out. For me, personally, I just took it as a good suspense film. And that's what it was. And I enjoyed it. And there's not a whole lot of horror films that I enjoy. But the first movie was very enjoyable. Going in to see the second film, I didn't know anything about what the source material was, but I was looking forward to it because I did enjoy the first one. It's not like the Paranormal Activity series where I saw the first one, thought the first one was okay. There was like 4 more Paranormal Activity movies, didn't even bother trying to watch them because, I mean, you're going to get tired of watching things just randomly fly around the house. Just what's interesting about that? But the funny thing is, there's a lot of the same elements in Paranormal Activity that are in The Conjuring, the first one and the second one. But the difference here is that there is great acting, there's a great script, and you are invested in these characters. You legitimately care for what is going on between the couple of Ed and Lorraine and the troubles that they're going through, that they maybe don't even want to take any more cases because their lives are in danger, their reputation. And with this family, you totally feel for this family who is being ridiculed for making things up, because this is something that no one's ever even heard of, and here these strange things are happening. The family at first doesn't even want to believe the children that they're probably making this up. They experience this for themselves. Then the police get involved. They're experiencing this. Slowly the story unfolds and tries to make you believe on this actual phenomena happening, which is actually based on true events. Which takes me to the actual validity of this haunting, known as the Enfield haunting. While the Warrens didn't necessarily investigate this haunting, while the movie does claim that they did, these events did happen. There was a family in Enfield that did experience this phenomena, and to this day believe that there was a haunting at their house, despite what anyone else will say. And I will say that while I was watching the movie, I didn't know any of this, that it was actually based on this. I'm sure that the events of Enfield might have actually inspired movies like the 1982 Poltergeist film. So those events actually inspired these classic cult horror films that we now know. So it was interesting to read about that after I watched the film. But this movie is a damn good horror film. While again, I didn't feel the horror to it, I can understand why people would be scared maybe, but I personally there was nothing scary for me about it. It was a good suspense film. There were a lot of creepy moments. There were jump scares, like any traditional horror film, but the movie was basing a lot of these things off of what actually happened. James Wan tried to stay as truthful as possible and still tell a good story. If they were to base everything on what actually happened, it wouldn't be that good of a story. I mean, it's still a very interesting story, but he wanted to make a good horror film, and by getting rid of some of the things that actually happened and then adding his own things, it certainly made it into a better film. But when we see these people coming in and who are investigating this, and they've got their tape recorders, they've got their detectors and stuff like you would see like in Ghostbusters or something, and you would say, well, I've already seen this. How many times are we going to be seeing the same thing over again? They are basing this on what people actually did when they were investigating this case, And what stands apart from this movie and any other horror film that has done this like millions of times is there is some really good acting. Script is really good. You really feel for the girl who is experiencing this, regardless of whether she's making this up or not. And while the movie is a bit predictable, like maybe even the first film, it's still a hell of a ride watching this film. It's a really good suspense movie. When I saw this film, it wasn't really scary for me, but it was when I actually walked outside, like at 12 o'clock at night, is when I started getting the creeps. And when I actually started looking into the actual Enfield poltergeist, the real life poltergeist that was reported back in the late 70s, that started sending chills down my back. So I think this movie did a really great job bringing that story to life, obviously adding some of their own things. I mean, every based on a true story movie adds something of their own. James Wan did a really good job. I mean, he's proved that before with his other horror films. I enjoyed this movie better than the first one. This one, it felt more believable. I was more invested in the characters. There wasn't some random doll just spinning her head. This felt legitimate. I mean, obviously there's some things that you're thinking, whoa, this is like bag shit crazy. This could never maybe happen. I mean, come on. But you just gotta take it into perspective that this is based on someone else's accounts and that this is what they were maybe seeing and we were living this through their eyes. This movie does a good job unfolding the story. I mean, in the beginning of the movie, we have a very troubled Lorraine, and we really get to see why she's troubled. It slowly unfolds as the movie progresses, and then towards the end of the movie, we realize why she didn't want to take any more cases and what was going through her mind, because she can communicate with the paranormal. I will say the one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of was the ending. As much as it was a really good movie, and I think that everyone should see it, even if you're not a horror fan, I think you should definitely give this movie a chance. You don't even have to watch the first one, to be honest with you. But the one thing that I did have a problem with was the ending, the way they get rid of the poltergeist. It just felt weak. I mean, the movie does a really good job building up the story, that it makes you actually think that this is actually legitimately real, that this family is experiencing this. And then towards the end of the movie, there's something that happens where they try to get rid of the poltergeist, and you're thinking, what? So this is how they're going to get rid of this poltergeist who is haunting this girl? This is how it's going to be done? The movie made me feel like I was actually there, investigating the case with them. And then when they throw this ending at you, it just reminded me that I'm watching a movie, because this just seems so simple for them to do. You've spent all this time building up the story, and then you just throw us an ending like that. Maybe this is because there isn't like a solid ending on how the poltergeist actually left the family alone in real life. So they really had to come up with some crazy way of how they're going to unpossess this child. I felt that kind of hurt the movie, because I was like, that's all you had to do to get rid of this demon that has been possessing the girl? Otherwise, this was a damn good movie, and I do recommend that people go see this. The acting is phenomenal. You're definitely invested in the story. There's a lot to enjoy in the film, whether you're just looking for a good story or you're there for just the jump scares. Either way, this is a movie that will satisfy either or, whether you're a fan of horror or not. I enjoyed it very much, and I'm going to be giving The Conjuring 2 a B. The Conjuring 2 is looking to be the best horror film of this year. I enjoyed it, like I said, better than the first movie. There's going to be a Conjuring 3, and it's going to be set in the 1980s. I don't know if there was some kind of strange paranormal case in the 80s. I would have to look into that, but the Enfield poltergeist, a very interesting story. I've said this before. Anytime when you're finished watching a movie and you want to research what the movie was based on, the movie did a good job. It got you invested to the point where you want more, and The Conjuring 2 certainly did that to me. The first one, not so much. It was a good movie, but there was nothing believable about it. This movie, while I don't believe that this poltergeist actually existed, it's still interesting to even see and listen to the documentaries and hear the stories from these children who are still alive today, and at least believe that there was a poltergeist in their family in the 1970s during their childhood that haunted them through the rest of their life. At least one of the daughters doesn't look like she recovered from that incident. She looks very traumatized. But still, Very good movie. If you're thinking whether you should see it, definitely go check it out. Go see it in theaters. Very creepy movie. You want to experience every bit of it in theaters. Alright guys, that is my review of The Conjuring 2. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Comment your thoughts down below. Did you see this movie? And do you think it's a good idea that they're making a third Conjuring movie? Are they pushing a little bit too much? Or should have Conjuring 2 been the last movie? Just comment that down below in the comment section. And subscribe to the channel for more content. And I will see you guys next time for more unboxings, reviews, and movie news.